Now, Roberta Taylor, as I say, is coming up, and she's written this book about her upbringing in the East End. It's called Too Many Mothers. It's a great read, actually. A huge recommendation from Helen Mirren on it. But one of the things that Roberta says is, although she had a very tough upbringing, she doesn't like people dwelling on the past and being held back and sort of whinging about the past, which kind of raises the question, how much are you a product of your upbringing? Or can you, completely divorce yourself from that and just be something else altogether?
Well, I mean, I remember I had a wonderful childhood, but sadly my older brother and sister don't remember it that way at all. They thought that my dad was incredibly strict with them, and I personally thought they deserved it. But it has actually divided, even though I was too young to remember.
Were you the favourite by any chance?
I was Terry's little girl, but it has divided the family so much.
Why? Because you don't believe them?
Well, I can just never believe that the dad that they're talking about is the dad that... I mean, I was the favourite, yeah, but Dad was like my best friend, and I knew him. We'd finish each other's sentences. I knew him better than anybody, and I can't believe he was ever the kind of father that they believe him to be. But sadly, my brother, it has affected quite badly, and he's got a really big chip on his shoulder, which has affected our relationship.
So what he thinks that because of the way he was brought up in his relationship with the dad, that's kind of hindered him in later life?
I just think he spent so much time blaming the past, blaming why his life's not turned out the way it is on his past, that he's not really got on with it. He's not moved on from it.
Yeah, but it's hard to move on. I mean, I know that my 3 eldest sisters, especially with my dad, he was really, really strict, my dad. And especially with the 3 eldest girls. By the time it got to me, he couldn't be bothered, as you can see. But with the 3 eldest, he was really strict, and it did massively affect their lives. It changed, they weren't even allowed to date till they were well in their 20s. They were still in knee socks, and they weren't allowed to attack. And it affected all their own self-worth about themselves,
and their relationship.
And it did affect them, and it affected their relationship with my dad. And I have to, although I didn't know that side of my dad, I do sit down with my sisters and go, look, I totally understand how you feel. You have to understand how I feel because I didn't know that side of him. But I'd never turn around and say, no, that didn't happen, because it didn't happen to me.
No, but, in my mind, and obviously I'm not commenting on your situation, but in my mind, you have to move on. I mean, there's people that are in far worse situations, experience far worse things, and they overcome it. It's about moving forward, not harping on about the past.
If somebody's made you grow up very insecure about yourself,
but I think you can use it as excuses as well.
But also, it must be, I obviously don't know your situation, but it must be a bit difficult for your brother and sister hearing you say this, because, whilst you obviously had one good relationship with your dad, which is great, if they truly believe that they had a bad relationship with them, have you not kind of got to allow them that? Because you don't know the relationship that they have with them.
Well, sadly, it's got so bad, we actually can't even speak about it. It can't even be mentioned, because if it is, straight away I'm on the roof, they're on the roof. We just can't find a way to communicate on any kind of level that, I can respect them and they can respect me. They probably respect me, my feelings, more than I can them. I wish I was mature enough to say, OK, Dad didn't do it right at that point, because as each child comes along, you get better, don't you, as a parent? But for some reason, I can just never get my head around the fact that he was like that.
No.
But they might feel that you're just kind of negating their feelings.
And even actually when my dad died, my elder sister, she said, you've got to remember you're not a single child. But that's how Dad made me feel sometimes. And because we've always had that relationship, for me to sit there and hear some of the things that my other brother and sister say...
You don't want to know about it.
I don't. And I can't believe
Yeah, but you can't say, well, then they should move on from that. It's very hard for them to move on from that, because he has kind of set that path. They've had to learn to move on from that and build up their own confidence and live their own life. But they must be quite bitter if he was that strict. I know my sisters are.
Yeah, it's so difficult for me to comment, because I'm probably talking more to you guys about this and on TV than I actually have with them, just because it brings up so much hatred and pain and anger. But yeah, it is really sad, and I hope one day we get to a level, particularly probably me, that I can be mature enough and I can just say, OK, let's park that there. That was what you experienced, and maybe it's me that's got to move on as well.
Well, there are some things that I think are difficult to move on from. I was bullied at school really, really badly for about 2 years, and so badly that I actually had to move schools. And it just stripped me of all my self-confidence, everything that I had. I was such a bubbly kid from being like the ages of 3 to being 11. And then suddenly I went into this school and they just decided, oh, we're going to pick on this girl. And totally just stripped me of everything. They would call me ugly, they would humiliate me, they would hit me, they would do all these things, call me and my family names. And actually, it's all right saying move on from it, but those kind of things are hard to move on from because there's something, you know, just putting it to the back of your mind isn't dealing with the problem.
So do you feel it's had a lasting effect on you?
Yeah, definitely. I have problems with low self-esteem. I don't think I could be much more confident. The only, you know, it's hard, when people look at me and they probably think, well, she seems confident, she's on telly and she's this, that and the other. But actually, in my private life, I'm not. I'm not that confident person, and if you knew me on a personal level, you would know that, and that has affected me, and will always affect me.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop bullying you now.
That's not possible.
I feel bad.
Yeah, well, whatever you do, don't let her wrap you to her breast because you'll suffocate, and you don't want that.
She tried it.
You don't want that.
I'm sorry, Kim.
I was grown in a laboratory till I was 21. I think that's affected me as well.
That's a surprise.